Education 1030 students, I hope everyone had a great week last week. I know that it was kind of a lot because you had two chapters, chapters 9 and 10. So chapter 9, just to recap, was talking about collecting, evaluating data, using information, information technology, and basically research, right? And then we got into chapter 10, where we moved into critical thinking, right? And how that's important in college and in your role in your job. So now we're going to move into chapter 11. So before we get into chapter 11 content, I just wanted to kind of show you the rest of the semester, if you will, and I'll do this again next week. But we have chapter 2 after this week because, believe it or not, folks, the semester is winding down. So we are going to have about 3 weeks left. That's it. And that's including final exam week. So there's not much time left in the semester. So after this week, we will do chapter 2. Then we will do our exam review materials, do our last exploring the field video reflection if we haven't done that already, and our presentations, which you've been working on this entire semester. So I'll be doing another video talking about the exploring the field presentations probably sometime next week. That way you can make your final presentation and final edits, and then you can send them to me for final review if you'd like feedback before we start putting together and recording ourselves. So that's just kind of the rest of the semester. And then during exam week sometime as well, we're going to be doing our course wrap-up materials, and I'll do a video talking about that as well. So let's go ahead and get into chapter 11. So chapter 11, I want to preface really quickly before we get into it. It deals with some topics that can trigger some things, some responses, because it's going to talk about things like unhealthy relationships. It can talk about abuse, sexual assault, sexual orientation, cyberbullying. So there are some heavy topics in here, and I just wanted to make you aware of that before you read chapter 11 to kind of prepare yourself, because this could be triggers for some people that have gone through these emotional traumas or responses. So I just wanted to let you know that ahead of time. So if you are reading it and it's upsetting you or triggering something, you're more than welcome to reach out to me so we can talk about it. You don't have to tell me what's going on as far as something personal, but just let me know. That way I can work with you on this chapter. I certainly don't want emotional trauma or triggers to come about and upset anyone. So I just wanted to preface that right away. So chapter 11, like I mentioned, is going to talk about some of these heavier topics, but it's also going to talk about how do you maintain wellness and really define what wellness is. And the easiest way to define wellness is really talking about how you take care of not only your body physically, but your mind and your spirit. And we talk about that in this chapter. So you are going to be reading chapter 11. One of the first things I want you to look at when you're reading chapter 11 is for you to be able to look on page 243, and I want you to take that short quiz and see which areas you mark the most in, that maybe when you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 5, which areas did you mark as 4 and 5, and which did you mark as 1 and 2, with 1 being never and 5 being always. These little quizzes in this textbook really feel like they give you a little bit of insight, maybe something you haven't thought about, or maybe just confirms what you know about yourself. And then the next page on 244, there's another one that is going to look at your stress level. This is the time this is the point in the semester where some of us can become stressed and overwhelmed. We're trying to turn in our last big projects. We maybe have researches and speeches, and then we start getting ready to be prepared for exams. So it can be overwhelming and it can be a lot. So I think it's only fitting that we're reading this chapter in this point in the semester. And there's some good tips and strategies in here about how to manage wellness, right? And then again, it talks about those other heavier topics as well, which is important for you to be able to maintain wellness, and that affects your relationship. So this is why this chapter is important. So as always, you're going to read your chapter, which is chapter 11. You have your PowerPoint slides here as a resource, as well as the reading organizer. Remember, the reading organizers are really important for you because they will help you in terms of using as a study tool for quizzes, but also on the last exam. There is another wellness self-quiz. This is not a graded activity. It will be similar to what's in the textbook, but it might not hurt to do both of them. It's to give you information for your personal use. So it just dives a little bit deeper. And as always, as additional resources, I have given you 2 videos. One of them is called Daily Burnout, and the other one is what happens when you start exercising. This really goes into the physical aspects that the textbook talks about. Now, how are you going to be assessed? Well, thank goodness for you, you don't have 2 chapters again. I know I did that to you 2 different times in this semester. It's just because we have to cover so much content that I wanted to make sure we are able to get through everything. But this time you're only doing 1 chapter. So you will be taking the chapter 11 quiz. And again, it opens on the 11th, which is Friday, and you have until the next Thursday, the 17th, to get done when it'll close. And then you have what we call a wellness worksheet. So again, this is making connections to our textbook chapter. So this is what you're going to do. Just kind of like what we did with our case studies, I want in chapters 9 and 10, I want you to use the textbook to help you answer these questions. If you read the assignment instructions, it says it wants you to provide thorough text-based responses, which means you're using this textbook, chapter 11 specifically, as a resource. So what I want you to do is I want you to first read chapter 11, and then I want you to answer these questions. Now, if you'll notice, you're like, oh, there's only 3 questions. But within each question, there's 2 different prompts, which means that you're going to have to answer all of the prompt, right? So you have number 1, for instance, says identify one area in your life which you need to make change to become healthier. But instead of just listing that one thing, it dives a little bit deeper, right? Because we want thorough responses. This is where you are going to make connections with the textbook. You may already know what area you want to become healthier. That's all about you. But now we're pulling in stuff from the textbook, right? Our resource. How do you think becoming healthier will improve your performance in college? So looking in the textbook, where is it talking about improving your performance in college? How is being healthy related to how well you do in college? So look for that in chapter 11. And then the second part of number 1 says, what are the challenges you face in becoming healthier? So the textbook could talk about that. But what are some challenges? So now you know how you can improve and what the connection is in being healthy and your performance. But then what are some challenges you face with that one area you're trying to work on? So again, you're seeing the whole piece of it like all the parts coming together for that whole, right? So that's what we talk about. We want thorough text-based responses. You're putting your response, but you're making connection to yourself. That is what we call when you're making a deeper connection, right? You have to relate the material to your life to make those connections. The second one is talking specifically about stress, and I opened that up when we first started talking about chapter 11. So if you go back to page 244, where you took that stress wellness quiz, right, that survey, that would be a good section where it talks about that to help you answer number 2. So it says that college can be stressful at times. What are your sources of stress? You would list those. Again, that's personal. How are you managing your stress? And then lastly, list the strategies you apply in reducing your stress. Now, if you'll look on page 244 and 245, again, that's where you're going to use your textbook as a resource, right? Where it talks about handling stress, managing it. It's not going to go away. Life can be stressful. We need to reduce as much as we can and manage the stress that we have. So That's why you go back to textbook to help you with that answers, to see if you're managing it properly. And then lastly, number 3 really talks about opportunities and connections in college, right? That support network. So thinking about, have you reached out and how many steps have you taken to build a support network? And what can you do in the future to expand your support network? Now, it talks about building relationships in chapter 11. Specifically, if you look at page 256, managing your relationships, on the next page in 257, it goes a little bit further when it talks about relationships in college. That would be a good way for you to look at that section to help you answer number 3. You will submit this to Dropbox, and again, that will close on Thursday, April 17th. Okay, so I do want you to continue working as well on your video reflection. You have 3 in total. You are now working on your last Exploring the Field video reflection, so go ahead and do that. And then continue to work on your Exploring the Field presentation. If you have not sent me your outline, you need to do that. You do not have permission to start working and putting your presentation together until I've looked at your outline. There are some students who have already let me see their outline. I've already graded it. So if you haven't done it, go ahead and put it inside of the late Dropbox. And then email me, let me know, and I'll look at it. And then I will give you feedback and let you know that you can begin, or maybe some changes you need to make before I let you begin working on your presentation. And you're more than welcome, like I said, I will be doing a video about this next week, but if you have your PowerPoint presentation together and you want me to give you some feedback, you're more than welcome to email me and I'll look at it. We do want our presentation to be thoroughly reviewed and edited before we begin to start recording ourselves. And again, we'll talk about that more in the next video. All right, I hope that everyone has a great week. We are kind of winding down this semester, so just hang in there. You've got this. You're doing amazing, and you're almost there. So again, please reach out if you have any questions about the presentation and recording yourself. I know this is something that we're not used to doing, or maybe you need help with putting your presentation together, or you've never done that before. So please feel free to reach out. I'm here to help you. All right, until next time, take care.